Good afternoon, everyone. This is a meeting of the Ogden Valley Planning Commission. I'm going to call us to order with a clap. There you go. We have all of our council people, all of our commission people are present, and Fred Lickley is not here in person. He is present on the Zoom call, so we have not only quorum, but we are unanimous, which is fabulous. That's what we want. I'd like to start, as the council always does, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now if we take just a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Well, everyone, I am a little unsure as to how we're supposed to roll, but I think we're going to get better at it as we go. And I've watched the city council, and I think they were probably a little nervous when they started too, but boy, they're getting to run like a well-oiled machine. So we will be there too. Number four, the fourth thing on our agenda today is the discussion protocol for the planning commission meetings. And that was proposed by council commission member Tyson Lloyd. He wasn't with us last week when we met, so we held that item so that he could explain that to us today.
Yeah, absolutely. So after speaking for this, ultimately, I just wanted to have some sort of format under which we could operate our meetings in a consistent way, and not just in a consistent way, but a way that facilitated that everyone's voices were heard. We've all been selected for a reason, so that everyone has a chance to represent a certain perspective as we discuss topics. And it's natural in meetings for there to be some folks who speak longer than others and others who are more quiet. And essentially, I was hoping that not that my proposal would be the final thing to do, but that we work on some sort of format that facilitates an efficient way to move through subject matters, to stay on topic, and to ensure that each member has an opportunity to speak, so that we don't get just sidelined by listening to one person speak too long, or as again naturally happens, someone hears, if we're talking about one subject and that reminds someone about something else, and you kind of start speaking in circles, as well as having some sort of just clear expectations. So we're going to speak about this thing right now. We're going to do it in this order, and then this is the hoped for outcome. Meaning, we come up with a proposal, or that we vote on something, and we know why we're talking about the subject.
Okay. So
I just wanted to get the ball rolling, and then I was hoping that we could iterate on that and we come up with something that works for everybody.
Okay. I thought you had great suggestions for me. For me, I thought you had fantastic suggestions. One of the things that I wondered was, are there things that are going to take a little bit longer, especially when we're in work sessions with and maybe Peggy can help us out with that. When you're in a work session, are you as formal with your times as when you're in a hearing, an actual public hearing and trying to get things moving more quickly?
No, we don't follow that as tightly, but I do believe there needs to be some protocol, because again, even in work sessions, somebody can monopolize the conversation.
Yes.
And they have equal airtime for everyone to voice, I think is important.
I think so too. Yes,
I have a question.
Yes, Anne.
Off topic. Defining sheet for people that are.
I think. Oh.
Thank you, Erin. Sharon,
Thank you.
been so happy. I'll just pass it around with the agenda.
There we go.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
If I could add, in terms of attendance, a signing sheet or a list of everybody present is only required in the case of a public hearing.
Oh.
However, it's not it's not like it's a bad idea. But it's only required to do if you're having a public hearing. The rest of the time, you're welcome to just ask people if they have comments to come up and state their name. You don't need to take a roll of everybody
Great.
present in the audience.
And it is up to us when that we can accept public comments. We can open it up when it's appropriate.
That's correct. It's a hearing on a decision or action that the commission needs to take, that needs to be advertised.
Yes.
And you need to open and close that hearing, but at any other time, yes, you're welcome to solicit comment from me.
Okay,
You as chair have that prerogative to choose when you will and will not
okay,
hear from the public.
great.
And that is Lucerne work session and the hearing, it's pretty much, it's designated on the agenda when
Right,
and how long. You can decide how long you want the comment to be.
okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts with regard to Tyson's proposal and on how any thoughts?
I would agree, I think we need some sort of format so that nobody gets overrun by someone else, especially when you may or may not agree, and I know my husband and I try to vote for each other sometimes.
Right.
And so I think that's a good idea, and I can't connect to the internet right now, because I was gonna bring up what you proposed to refresh my memory. I definitely, would agree that we, I tried to use their password over there, and it's not working, do a friend.
I don't have it in front of me either. Angela, do you have a copy?
Can you just can we just talk through if you have a copy of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got one right there.
Okay.
I mean, I can share a camera.
I read it, but it's been.
You want me to just like read through the whole thing? Okay. And again, I just want to be clear that this is just a rough draft, if you will.
Like a starting.
So if someone, I just want to be like, it's easier, instead of saying, I think we should do something, saying like, well, here's something.
An example.
We can start chipping away at with Jamie. All right. Should I read the whole thing? Is that what you guys want? Or should I just kind of?
We've got 2 hours.
Well, it kind of, there's,
Give us
kind of
everything.
reading points, because these
It's
are.
gotta- So the purpose of this protocol is to ensure the planning commission meetings are efficient, fair, transparent, and focused on sound decision making. The structure guarantees every member the opportunity to be heard while preventing any individual from dominating the discussion. The meeting framework, and agenda integrity. All agenda items must be clearly listed at least 24 hours in advance, consistent with Utah Open and Public Meetings Act. Items not on the agenda may be discussed for context and may not be acted upon. Discussion structure. Topic framing for 1 minute each. For each agenda item, the chair clearly states the specific question or decision before the body. Why the type of input is being sought, such as recommendations, concerns, or alternatives. This ensures a shared understanding before this discussion begins. So again, this is simply so we know what we're talking about and why we're talking about it. For the first speaking round, and again, these minutes are arbitrary, but 2 minutes per member. Each member is given up to 2 minutes to provide their initial perspective. The chair call on all members in a set order, clockwise or alphabetical. Members may pass if they do not have initial comment. No interruptions or crosstalk. No members may speak twice until all those who wish to speak have spoken once. Purpose ensures every voice is heard early, prevents early dominance by strong personalities, and gives the group a broad view of perspectives before the debate begins. Next up would be clarifying questions phase for 5 to 10 minutes. Members may ask clarifying questions only, no opinions or argumentation. Examples would be, how many units would be allowed under this proposed zone? Is this road width compliant with fire code? So just kind of asking questions for the ground. The purpose is to have a shared factual understanding and reduce confusion and unproductive debate. Then we go to focused discussion block, 10 to 15 minutes. The chair sets a timer and frames the scope of discussion. Example, let's focus on this block specifically on traffic and access implications. Rules, members may request to speak by raising a hand or signaling. The chair or designated timekeeper maintains a queue. Each contribution is limited to 1 minute. No member receives a second turn until all who wish to speak have been heard. Time extensions require consensus of the body. Purpose: prevents individuals from dominating, keeps the conversation on topic, ensures efficient use of time. This is again just a term for calling out topics that are off topic, and we could say parking lot for off topic items. If a comment falls outside the scope of the current discussion, a chair may direct it to the parking lot in quotations for later review. The purpose avoids derailments, ensures important side issues are not lost but handled at the appropriate time. Then we move to the decision round for 30 to 45 seconds per member. Each member states their final opinion or position. Options would be saying, I support this thing, and I oppose, or support with modifications, so that we all know who knows what, or who still has uncertainties. Rules: no debate during this phase. Statements must be concise and action oriented. Purpose: synthesizes discussion into clear decision pathways, provides transparency for minutes and the public record. After that, we would motion and vote. After the decision round, a motion is made. Members may briefly comment for 30 seconds on the motion before voting. Vote is conducted and recorded per OPMA requirements. Then the roles and responsibilities of this whole song and dance would be: the chair frames the topics, maintains order, enforces time limits, and uses parking lot windows, ensures OPMA compliance. A timekeeper or queue manager as a designated member or staff person tracks speaking order, monitors time limits, alerts chair when time blocks expire. This allows the chair to focus on facilitation rather than policing. And then this is kind of options that we could use. I kind of like the idea of having members being able to submit a pre-written comment just to facilitate just getting information out. Members may submit 100 to 200 word written comments for the packet. These are included in public materials and ensure transparency while reducing meeting length. Staff briefing sheets. City staff may provide standardized summary sheets for each item, facts, applicable codes, key issues, options, staff recommendation. This supports efficient informed discussion. And 6, public comment. If public comment is part of the meeting, time limits may apply uniformly. Comments must be related to the agenda item. The chair may close public comment after all those who wish to speak have had the opportunity. This protocol does not alter local policies surrounding public comments, but supports them instructed. And then lastly, amendments. This protocol may be reviewed and amended by majority votes to improve efficiency and maintain compliance with UDOL.
Thank you. I think that was comprehensive and well thought out. I'm gonna call on Fred first, because I don't want to forget that he's not here in person. Fred, do you have any thoughts, comments that you want to make with regard to this procedure?
The protocol, no, that sounds very reasonable to me.
Yeah.
No, it's a great job. Some of the boards I've been on here in the valley in the past, like CFOB, they've complied to this Robert's rules. Pretty standard type thing. But anyway.
Great.
And thank you for putting this together. Yeah, it's a great start. I have a couple of items that jump out at me though, that I want to discuss about. The comment about sending in thoughts in advance, I guess. I'm not really in favor of that because I've been in, many meetings where after public comment, after presentation by an applicant or something, your mind might totally change from when you walked in the door.
Yeah.
Thinking and understanding, because you don't really have the full scope, and that's why we have public hearings. So I hate to jump to conclusions and kind of have some preconceived opinions out there on the table until we've gone through that whole process. And we can personally hold on to those things and kind of know what we're stepping in with, but I just worry that it might, kind of steer conversation where maybe it's not fair to the public for that. And then the other part would be just timing. When I think, I think the timekeeping and all that could be cumbersome. I don't think it should be the chair. I'm not sure who it should be, but I don't really think it should be any one of us, because then our mind isn't really thinking about the conversation. We're focused on the time and not listening. And so if we do the timekeeping thing, I think we would want to volunteer somebody to do that. And I I think pieces of it can be strict, but other pieces where we're opening the discussion. I think as long as everybody gets a voice on the commission, I don't know that we need to start off limiting and kind of see how it goes and check in maybe after a few meetings and see if we feel like it's gotten out of hand, but I just wanna, people wanna have more to say, I wanna hear what they have to say
Yeah,
and not shut it down prematurely.
Okay.
So those are my only two.
So is that related to these work sessions or when there's public and?
I think right now we're just talking about work sessions. The rules get much more formalized when we're in an actual public hearing.
Right.
So, but I think we're talking about right now.
Just the work session?
Yeah. I'm gonna pass because I said some stuff at first and but really the thoughts I had, I think you guys are expressing.
I would have to say, I think it's a good idea but I'm not sure we're there yet. I would have to agree with Angela as far as the timekeeping and especially in our work sessions. Because I think there's a lot that's gonna have to be talked about, and I think that initially, as long as the chair calls upon everyone to state their piece, and if I'm in the middle of saying my piece, we can all be respectful of me not interrupting Angela or you or whatever because of a difference of opinion, or whatever. But I definitely think it's a good starting point, for figuring out what and how we want to, what pieces of this we want to take and apply
Yeah.
as needed.
Mhm.
It's kind of hard to figure out now because it's literally our first work session. But I definitely think, and the chair said that, we should get into your public hearings and those are much more regimented. So, we don't wanna overtalk somebody who's speaking to us and you have time limits and those reasons for a reason, because my dad was an attorney and I know he can be very long-winded. And so, but I definitely think it's sorry. But I definitely think it's a good basis for which to form as we kind of go along, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that was the goal.
Harry?
I'm right there too. I think it's a good framework, but I like really loose conversation a little bit, especially when we're just trying to get all the information out and kind of bat ideas around. So I don't want it to be so formal that we're losing a little bit of energy. But I do think it's a good guideline for us. So in case we do get out of control,
Somebody can roll this and.
yeah, you can raise a flag or something.
You introduced this.
Yeah.
Introduced it, then I started with Fred. Any more thoughts from you? Because you threw it out there and it was amazing, but now as we.
I'm all about, the whole spaghetti to the wall, see what sticks. So again, I wanted to throw this out there and I love hearing all your guys' opinions and I think they're valid. I guess for those who, if you have some corrections to it, what would you propose that what would be your iteration that we could start with, right? My hope wasn't that we just start with this immediately, but that you guys poke some holes in it and then we have something to start with as far as just some sort of structure so that we get things accomplished and we don't just talk a lot. The talking is important, but moving from subject to subject is also.
Right.
So.
Well, I think it's nice to lean to the chair and allow you to step in if you're saying, okay, let's allow somebody else to speak, I want to defer to you as the arbitrator.
Okay.
I would agree with Terry on that,
Okay.
at least for now. I mean, I don't think we need to stopwatch, and if you want to time people,
We can use it like.
I'm happy to do it on my phone, that's not a problem. But I think that for these work sections, kind of like what you're doing right now, where we talk about something that someone brought up, and then you call on each person and you state your views, and then you go back through.
My thoughts are, I think it's a fabulous format to start out with, and I like the comments about having some flexibility. My thought would be being mindful of what Tyson has suggested and really the essence of what we want to accomplish of being efficient, being effective, making sure everybody has turns to talk and are respectful of one another. My thoughts would be, let's jump in and not try to make a lot of changes now. Let's see how it rolls and then see how we want to fine tune going forward. Just my comment. Angela?
Yeah, I think, see how we go and communicate, but we can, in the meantime, if you're willing to take feedback on this for the future, maybe we could just send him kind of our comments of things we like, things maybe we wanna, you know,
Yeah.
we can then
Pick it apart specifically, maybe.
do make it come back with a revision in a couple of meetings, or you
Yeah.
two work together on that.
I'd be happy to. I'm just trying to think about how that logistically would work, because let's just say 5 people share 5 different opinions, then how do we start to come to a consensus as a group, so how do we?
Actually, I don't know that we have to come to
Okay.
consensus. I think we have to vote eventually.
Yeah.
If we don't come to consensus, we vote and the majority wins. I think this is what we do.
Okay.
Brian, am I correct in that?
No.
I'm not correct.
No.
You're not,
No, you're not. You are correct.
I am correct. Okay. Okay.
I'd be happy to-
Jim?
No, I think it's good framework, but, you know, we can adjust as we go along.
Fred? I'm looking
Yeah,
here.
I'm fine. I'm good with it.
Okay, all right, does anybody have any further comments on this particular matter? Or do we think we are ready to move on to the next item on our agenda? I think we're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, item number 5 is discussion of a timeline for completing our zones and ordinances that are necessary to lift the moratorium. And so I think in this I think is going to be a longer discussion. I think we need to talk about what are our drop dead dates that we have to have things finished by, and then we're going to break it down into smaller pieces, and then who's going to do what and all the things. So first of all, if I may, I'd like to share our drop dead dates. No, actually, I take that back. First of all, I'd like you to keep in mind, I did give you a little document that gives the dates, the dates of the planning commission and the dates of the town council. And this eventually, I think, will be posted on public notice because we're supposed to post a year in advance with what we know, and we have that. So the schedule that I provided you is for our evening meetings that are reserved for if we need public hearings. But they might be work sessions. They're certainly just gonna be work sessions now, as far as I can see, until we get going work. But the dates that we have for our planning commission meeting are all listed. Those are our evening meetings. And then we will add meetings as necessary. And what we talked about in our last meeting was the same days or the Tuesdays, but first and third Tuesdays between 3 and 5, the city council has it at 5. So when we are adding more meetings, which we fully intend to do, probably weekly, and as we go, we're gonna be meeting every Tuesday, whether it's at 3 or whether it's at 6. So that's just an FYI with the dates for you to make sure you have. Then I have some drop dead dates for things that have to happen. These are the drop dead dates that we have, and remembering that it is understood that we want to do everything possible to finish before these deadlines, but setting them on the drop dead dates allows us to thrill everybody when the time with the times we're able to say we're early, rather than disappointing people and saying we told you we'd try by this date but we didn't make it. So our last drop dead, Yes,
Sam, question?
yes, oh, please.
Is this the timeline thing that you talked about at the planning commission?
Yes.
yesterday?
Yes,
Are we gonna get that in an email?
yes.
So I mean,
I actually have a copy on my laptop, but
okay,
Okay,
that was my question.
and it's the same days, I saw part, but I missed a little bit of
Yeah,
it.
it includes the same dates that I emailed you.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
so I'll just quickly refresh those days. June 16th, to hold a public hearing before the city council, that's the final discussion and adoption of the plan. So June 16th, this will be done so that it can go before the city council and the moratorium will be lifted on July 3rd. So if you move backward from that, June 9th is when notice will be published for the public hearing with draft documents for public review. And also on June 9th, there will be a public hearing before the planning commission with final discussion. And then we will make recommendations, we'll make a recommendation to the city council, that's June 9th. June 2nd, the planning commission will review final drafts and publish the notice for a public hearing on June 9th with the draft documents for public review. And May 26th, that's the first date as we look forward, all edits to ordinances in the general plan are due to Brian's staff, right? Is that who staff is? Okay,
What was that last date again?
May 26th. So essentially, May 26th is when our job is going to be, for the most part, complete. All our work is complete, and then we're going through processes and editing and things like that after getting public hearings. So then as we add more dates and times, and Brian will help us with that, we'll have greater intervals moving. Okay, well, this time I'll start with Jim. Any thoughts on this? Anything you want to talk about with regard to that?
So questions regarding, as we're working through this. We have assignments. Are we able to reach out to Brian with questions?
Great question. So you and Fred are the only ones that have assignments so far, and so let me explain. I was under, I had heard that there were some things that should be easy to pass off. They were pretty, with during all of the transition meetings, there were some items that were pretty non-controversial. Some items with regard to zones and ordinances that really weren't controversial and might be able to be passed off pretty quickly. And so I asked Fred and Jim if they would take charge of those things because they might be able to get them reviewed quickly and we could start checking something off our list. I asked them that last week, and in order for them to have done that, I needed to get them a list of what those things were. And what I learned was, we've all played the game in school where it's like you pass the word along and it's not quite the same when it gets to the end. Where there was just a miscommunication. There is no particular list. It was thoughts of what happened, that there should be some. And so it wasn't quite as easy, but some of those items I did get in the yesterday or the day before. And then I shared them. So I thought maybe because Fred and Jim, like everybody else, they're amazing. And they said they would try to get through as many of those as possible if I got them what to start with by last Friday. I couldn't, so they couldn't. So now they have a list of just some places to start, and I think they're ready to go. So if, with regard to reaching out to Brian, I think my direction has been. Are you raising your hand for me?
I'm just letting you know that Fred has a question.
Oh, okay, let's check Brian, I'll get right to you. That we are trying to be organized and mindful with Brian's time because we're kind of being mindful of our budget. So it is my thought that I would prefer that if you have a question for Brian, you get, and the other reason is because we need to remember that Chad Booth is the planning lead. He's the point person for planning for the city council. And so Chad needs to be kept up to speed with everything, and Peggy is kind of Peggy's his right arm, so they're kind of tag teaming, but Chad is really the lead. And so before anything goes to Brian, I would really appreciate it if I would know about it so that I can make sure Chad knows. For example, I felt like I needed to talk to Brian to check the agenda and say, am I on the right track? Is this what it should look like? And I let Chad know, and Chad said, hey, if you get a meeting with Brian, make sure, please let me know, because I want to join you in that meeting. That way we're efficient with the time we spend with Brian, and we can say, okay, we got a few things, let's get him on a meeting and ask those things. So and Peggy may be able to speak to that as well, but my thoughts are, no, please don't just reach out to Brian to ask a bunch of questions. Let me know, and if we need to pull Chad in, and so Chad has the opportunity to participate in that meeting and figure out exactly how it would happen. If you need the direct question, or Chad or somebody can get the answer and get back to you, however that would happen, I think is flexible. But we want to make sure Chad knows, so he can participate in the meeting, and so that we're being mindful and efficient and conservative with our budget. Is that a fair representation, Peggy?
Absolutely, we are, really trying to be frugal with our budget. Brian will be here during the planning work sessions, your planning commission work session, so he's here to help us. We don't want to throw barriers to getting this done. We want to invest in what's important to our community, and land use is important to our community. So we want to invest in that, but we just want to be mindful of everybody reaching out for his time, because the clock starts.
And making sure that Chad is always directly in the loop as that being his responsibility from the city council. And I would like to know too, because it's important for me to know those things, so that I know, hey, do I need to make sure we've got something on the a piece on the agenda, so you guys can talk about that. And I think Fred.
Oh, may I ask one more
Yes,
question,
please.
Brian? Are your plans to be here at the evening meetings, the planning hearings, also the planning commission hearings?
Yes.
So every week you'll have access to Brian. So if we could use that time
That's great.
to connect and
Yeah.
ask questions, he will be here
Fantastic.
to support us.
Yeah.
Fred's question.
First question, I don't want to forget him.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, Lisa, so Jim and I talked yesterday and came up with what we think is a pretty decent overall strategy for the zones and ordinances, which would be, as a starting point, Janet's a volunteer committee, which I worked on, some of you worked on, I'm pretty sure, commented on all those things throughout the last year. And they existed in a folder somewhere. And our thought would be to take those, and Jim and I would just, attack them and go through them. He'll take one, I'll take one, and get it to a point where, we feel, we've addressed the comments, or we feel comfortable with the particular chapter, and then kick those over to Brian and his group to then do the fine tuning on them to make sure that they're consistent with state codes and, other details that we're not familiar with. And then that his group would then create, draft finals for, I assume, the planning commission and then the city council to ultimately approve. But I think, kind of the 20,000-foot view, we felt like we could do that, and it might be most efficient just for the two of us to wade through those, and then you have some consistency there. But I would reserve that if we do get into this and find that it's just too time consuming for the two of us, then we'll certainly report back. But so that was the general idea, and I talked to Brian yesterday. He thought that was a good idea as well. And then a couple follow-up things for that would be to establish a periodic weekly meeting with Brian that would be more of a coordination meeting, just, okay, we're sending you 10 more chapters to review this week. Any questions on last week's, that kind of thing. So that's one. And then secondly, and most important is, as a starting point, is to make sure we're looking at the right spot to have all those, zones and ordinances that Janet's group had commented on. And I don't think we have them in. And there's two folders that I have been given access to with two different names. So I talked to Kathy yesterday via text, and she thought that Angela Dean might have populated those in the folders that we have. But I guess, so, it's a question. Where are those files? And, can we have confirmation that, the folder that they're in, and then, I think Jim and I can get started on this, if that sounds good to everybody.
Well, okay, so thank you, Fred. That's a fantastic offer. What I was envisioning was for you guys to take a section of those items and that we would divide them up amongst all the planning commissioners. So everybody was working on something, and we can collaborate in groups of 2 or 3 if we have, or are trying to do that, because 4 is a quorum for us. And so there can be some, we're not limited to doing work during our work sessions. We can do that at other times. But in my mind, I was thinking that we go through those ordinances, those areas, those zones today, and let everybody have an opportunity to say, hey, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in that. And then we would kind of divide them up and have 2 to 3 people who are working on each zone. And if others have thoughts on those zones, they can have input in the smaller groups, or talk about it once we're here in our planning meetings, so that everybody's working on stuff. And I've been, there's a ton of information that we got last Wednesday. The files that have some of the documents with the comments, there's a lot there. And then Angela was fantastic. She created a spreadsheet for us that has all a full list of the zones and a short list of the zones. But so I'm gonna actually stop and pause so that everybody has a chance to respond to what's going on here. The creating, which is creating a schedule and dividing up the work so that we can get going. And I'm going to start with, let's see, I actually started with, who did I start with? How'd we go? Where are you?
You started Jim.
You started with Jim last time. Terry, I'm gonna start with you.
So I have a quick question.
Oh, okay.
So you sent an email to Fred and I, and I identified 5 zones.
Yes.
Or 4 zones. Now, how does that apply to what we just said?
Correct.
Are
Because
they?
I was not necessarily, but part of that email said was, if you guys still want those zones, those are the ones that I did get word they should be quicker to get through. And if you guys want to take those and whip through those and go ready for some more, that's great. And if you don't want to do that at this point, because it didn't happen last week, then I would say let's go through and see.
Okay, so the public comments that we're talking about or apply or could impact.
Well,
those zones.
they could, and that's what you'll go look, but you'll go look and find out and make sure. And the word I got was, here are some zones that weren't really controversial and should be able to be addressed pretty quickly. Where some of the others had a lot more thought, people had a lot more
So these
kids.
comments do pertain.
As far, yeah, I haven't gotten through all the all the things, because it's just a lot of information. But yes, I still want, we still should go through everything thoroughly and not just go, yep, that's done. But those were the ones that that I learned might be more quick to get through. Does that make sense? Okay.
How did you learn that, Lisa?
How did I learn that? Well, it was kind of through the grapevine. Janet said because that during the things that and then trying to find out exactly where is the list and the list, but that list doesn't exist. And eventually Peggy sent me those zones because Janet told her. Okay, because Janet's flying by the seat of her pants too, and so I heard that they existed because it was a conversation of there are some zones that should be able to be passed off quickly, and I said, great, where? I'd love to have that list so we can check those off and get moving and show that we got something done. But there wasn't a list. It was merely a miscommunication, and we've ironed that out. But I actually got the ones that I sent you in emails were received by Peggy from Janet and passed from Peggy to me and then from me to you.
And may I
Okay.
just, that was based on Fred Janet's conversation during the year when she was going through these with the public. That was her impression, that they were less controversial.
And I think the key word is impression,
Right.
which means we need to go through and make sure, and that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be that there isn't some comment and controversy that needs to be addressed. So that's part of the research, and then those will all be opened up, and the public will still have a chance to comment on those things as we go. Just that these might be a little quicker, and I can't promise that.
So where are the public comments?
In the file, it's in that file. Yeah, maybe we can.
Sorry, Mr. interject, if I can hop on the Kathy's computer to the shared file you set up for us that has.
The SharePoint?
The one that, well, it's labeled automatic city council, but you can pull that up, I'm happy to navigate at some point, so
Well, that
that's
would be
just
great.
files.
Is that okay? I was gonna go through
Yeah,
it.
because I don't know where these files exist.
Okay, great.
So I'm happy to navigate us and talk about the different formats and where we can each find all of those, if that's helpful.
Thanks, Ashley.
And then Angela, there may be another iteration of them.
That's in there.
Okay, that's in there. So I'll share those.
Okay.
But could we do that after we finish?
Oh, yeah, picking your zones.
Yeah, no, not
No.
picking ourselves, but just discussing how this is all set up.
Yes. Hey, and then I'm gonna go back to Terry, please, because that was where I was gonna start.
She's calling back her.
I'm sorry, Erin, sorry.
So. There's so many things. I'm all for the division of. What we have to go through, that is the fastest and most efficient way to do it. The biggest thing that I have is. We do not have a lot of time. Like, we need to make the most of the time that we have. I think the outline that Brian was talking about yesterday at city council meeting was the 30th of April. Once we start scheduling hearings, like, all of the documents need to be ready to go. And am I wrong in thinking that there has to be a general plan before you can start approving city ordinances and zones? We haven't approved a general?
We have not adopted gender.
We have not done.
We have not adopted one, but we have an old one, and then I saw there's a draft of it.
Right. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
But my question to that is, does the planning commission not have to review that general plan and the one that's not adopted and the old one and whatever the new comments are? And before we can go forward with anything else, we have to put that to the city council, they have to adopt it before we start doing all the other things? Did I agree that wrong in the book?
They have to adopt it before they can adopt the new ordinances, but we can be reviewing all of that simultaneously.
Right, okay.
So, am I allowed to interject since I'm the chair? But I did send everybody the old the existing general plan done by, you're right, 67 pages, that one. And then today, I saw a draft.
It's in
Yes, but I was working my way through, 'cause there's a lot, right? So I saw the draft of a potential new one that I didn't have a chance to read, and it's 68 pages, by the way, because I didn't print it off. But, but I did send it so that we could, people would have that to start reviewing before we got any of these files. So, yes, you are absolutely correct.
Okay.
That is first.
Who's working on that?
We all need to be reading that. I mean, it's,
No, but who developed the new, or the book?
I don't know.
Well, we had two folks working on it when we were 12 candidates. So I'm not sure which one's in the draft, I'll have to take a look at it. But I want to share with you just one little thing. Don has applied for a TAP grant that we're waiting to hear if we get in April. We can't use the money prior to that, Brian's aware of that.
Probably can't use the money until you won't be able to access the money until July, when the state gets contract in place. They may let you start spending it once you have an award.
Right. But
They don't, so we'll figure.
But we can use that money to redo a new general plan if we feel that's necessary. It's also for a transportation plan. So we can use that money and, you know, since we're trying to be frugal on money, the conversation was, and you're gonna have to have the same conversation and see where you end up, is do we have a plan that we can carry into the future and then do a full-blown public input plan for general plan once we get the money to do that.
So Peggy, is the plan that we are looking at and hoping to use right now, the 2016 plan that's already in place? Or are we supposed to look at the draft?
You could choose to do either, but we had hoped that you could look at the draft, because the draft should have taken the canyon out. The
Okay.
draft should have taken the upper valleys out.
And
And sure, focus just on our city. That's what the two folks working on the draft, when there were 12 candidates, were tasked to do. But it's all the heart of the general plan is the heart of the 2016.
Okay.
We didn't change that content. We wanted
Take
the
a look at
vision.
both.
So that's something you guys really have to talk about
Yeah.
and decide.
Yeah.
But just know there's money down the road because we want to do a thorough job with the general plan and what will be our bridge to get us there. That you recommend to the council.
That's really helpful. So I think what I'm hearing is we have the 2016 plan, and then we have a draft that at the very least has taken out one of my big questions. All the information about the canyon and the resorts and the areas that didn't apply to, don't apply to our city are not in that draft. So we would wanna look at both and maybe rely more on the draft if there's nothing else in the first iteration that we think has been left out that we think is important. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's where we
And
start.
how do we access this draft?
I heard it just dropped. We've been trying to get it, so I just heard it's in
It's
the.
been in the file that Kathy shared with us like 2 weeks ago.
I know, I'm still finding things too, I might have
And
to.
Kathy, where are you dropping these files? Are you dropping them in Google Docs? Are you dropping them in our folder? Are you dropping it to my email?
So I sent you guys that share link in the email I sent you guys.
Mhm.
That's where all those files are going. That's the share folder for the planning.
So this is the new folder.
Yes.
It's
Came
like,
last Wednesday.
it's like the Microsoft version of Google Docs, and it's very, very good. But
It
I still need some help.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, when we're done talking, I'm happy to walk us through all of
Yeah,
that.
that'd be great.
That would be helpful.
Aaron, are you finished?
I'm good.
Harry, are you finished?
No.
Okay, keep talking.
Okay, so my understanding as a commission is that we all need to be aware of what everybody's doing. So I would like to know what ordinance you sent to these two guys. Because it's leaving me in the dark and I don't like
Yes.
that feeling. And I think and you correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that as we're reviewing specific zones or ordinance or whatever, maybe Aaron and I are doing something, but we present it to the group.
Yes.
It doesn't go from me and Aaron directly to.
Absolutely, so I'll back up again and try to pull my foot out of my mouth, because I'm the one that acted with more haste. So the zones that I found out yesterday or the day before, I don't know, that were supposed to be the less controversial. As I said, last week after I heard there were less controversial zones, I said, hey, and my intention was, hey, wouldn't that be nice? They could report back to us today on if they were digging in.
I get
And
that.
I plan to have that happen, but the zones, but they may not, that we can change that all up, right? Forest F5, Forest Valley 3, open space, and possibly the shoreline zones.
I guess what I'm implying, maybe I shouldn't imply, is that maybe we can be closed captioned or just so we know what's going on.
Yes, so I think that's what this meeting is today. That's okay, CC. This meeting is for, so we can go through and divide those things, and I think what we'll do is we'll go, I'm proposing that we go through all the zones and everybody gets to weigh in. I'd like to work on that. I'd like to work on that. I'd like to work on this.
Okay.
But when we narrow it to the smaller group of who's actually gonna work on it, we need to have 2 or 3, not 4 or more, because then we have to do it in a public meeting.
Right.
And once we get going on that, my vision is that will be part of our sessions. It's like, report in, how's it going? Yeah, we all need to be up to
That's the
speed.
whole point of the commission.
Exactly, and when, if 7 of us say, I'm really interested in that zone, but only 3 of us are gonna work on that, then we're all gonna get input.
Right.
Whether we talk to 1 or 2 of those people, individually, or if it's something we discuss as a group in our work sessions, that's my estimation, is that every one of us have to have good information, but we're trying to get through, so we've got something to get us going forward, instead of all doing all the work.
As an example, I just looked through short-term rentals. I
Mhm.
read through, the zone thing, I read through the public comments, and I just compiled it all and made it a little bit more cohesive. And that I'm kind of thinking, maybe that's what we bring to the group, is, we funnel it down and say, this is kind of what we're hearing from the public. Here's what legally we can do, and then we start exploring, right? Am I getting
I
that?
think that makes
Wrong?
sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
Yep, and I would add one bit of counsel. At this point, we are working towards good enough. We're not working towards perfect,
Right.
ideal.
Right.
We're working
We can
good
tweak
enough to
later.
get us out of the moratorium. And then starting in July, we can start making additional
We can tweak.
adjustments to make it more closer to perfect.
Right, okay,
So.
I'm done.
Hey, Lisa,
Yes,
this is Fred. I had a comment. So that approach is, that's doable, but I think you need to come up then with an overall schedule on these assignments and, dates that the efforts will be completed. Otherwise, I'm worried that we'll be talking about things, and a June 15th comes up and, we haven't made the progress we needed. And that would include the general plan, which I think is a high priority and something that we need to, focus on and get moved out of the planning commission
Yes.
and into a final state as soon as we can.
okay, I agree, and I'm trying to rotate through and adhere loosely to Tyson's protocol, and so Tyson is next to give his comments.
Yeah, so my understanding is we will all select or be assigned certain zones. We will, as those micro groups, go through those, come up with a general rough draft, kind of like I did with my proposal. And then we'll bring those before the committee, the commission. And then as a commission, we'll discuss that and hopefully say, yeah, now whatever zone forest residential one is done and that will be ready to send on to the city council,
Or do you?
right?
So Brian, for review.
Yeah, so it's Tony and my staff can take a look at it to make sure it's consistent, and it's compliant with state law, which, you know, most of these. Or,
And the
it's fine anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to make sure that we'll get it cleaned up and we'll get it ready for the group to consider. Yeah.
Okay, so the rough draft will come from the micro groups, final draft will come, well, final draft for us will come from the group as a whole, and then move on. I second with Aaron, my understanding of the book, the ground rules book was, or we can work on these things simultaneously, but we have, as the planning commission, I could be wrong, we have to create the general plan. So they have a draft for us, but they're not supposed to write, the city council is not supposed to write the general plan, we're supposed to write it. And we have to approve them before they can approve our ordinance.
Anything. Correct, and I think what I need to say is I made an error by not putting general plan at the beginning when it said, what are we gonna do? Discussion of general plan. That should have been on there first, so.
I'm not putting that to you, I'm just trying.
No, I'm saying, you're right, and that was in my mind, I've been looking at the general plan and knowing that, and the words I got there weren't accurate enough, so. Yes, the general plan has to come first, so that's gonna be on our to-do list, but I don't think we're gonna, dividing up the general plan isn't quite the same as dividing up all of the zones. I think we all can read through that and then discuss it. Yes.
To your point, though, I think that when you said that we have to write it, I think the draft that's in the folder was pre-election, so it's something the transition teams worked on, and so what we should be able to do at that point is take the one that kind of that encompassed the Upper Valley parts and the Ogden Canyon, and they remove the parts that don't apply to the city.
Yeah.
It should be fairly easy, if I'm not mistaken, for the 7 of us to review it and go, okay, this is ready, clean it up. I assume that has to also go to Brian?
Yeah.
And then send it to him and say, okay, this is now ready to go to the city as a recommendation for the general plan. That should be, I wanna say easy lemon squeezy, because I'm assuming that a lot of that work was done and it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because if down the road they wanna do like a whole nother general plan,
Right.
there's gonna be money down the road to do that, but we need a general plan to work off of to do anything else or approve anything else.
Well, from what Peggy said, there are 2 people working on a revised general plan.
No,
that was
during the transition.
Okay. So, okay,
It's back in our report now.
okay.
Yeah, so I just want to get back
Hey,
there.
we just got-
It is our job. You
Yeah.
have a draft.
Yeah.
You have to-
It is our job, and we have now been given the
Original.
document in its full form that was passed by the county commission in 2016. And the draft document that started during the transition period with a couple of things that have to change, right? You gotta have Ogden Canyon and anything that's outside of our boundaries, that needs to be eliminated. And then we probably need to look and go, is there anything else that we feel really strongly has to be taken out or put in before we can do these ordinances in our first iteration? Because that's our umbrella that the ordinances will support. And so the ordinances have got to be tight, but what can we live with now before a major revision? Is that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And at some point, I don't know if you have, as a chair, have to present that, but we can, the simplest word in my mind is we just do that. We pare it down, we get all the superfluous things out of there. And then as a commission, unless there's anything glaringly wrong with the plan at that point, we can pass it relatively easily.
Yeah.
But if we get a
Right,
majority.
and I think that, you know, our meeting on the 10th, yeah, we have, what's his nice name? Yeah, Craig Hall is coming, do we anticipate he's going to take up the full 2 hours with us? Do we have any idea?
I believe you can set that schedule. We will ask him.
I don't wanna give him as much time as he feels like he needs with us, but okay, we'll work on that, but I would like to say, let's start talking about that general plan next time. And in the interim, I would hope that we're getting together in groups of 2 or 3 and not 4 or more, right? And talking to each other, you know, hey, you wanna have coffee and talk about this section that I've been looking at, or you got time for a quick phone call? That, I think, we're gonna do a lot of that. And so I think we can do that informally, and then hopefully we've got some time that we can talk about some of that next week. Unless Craig needs all our time, so we can get that taken care of, because you're right, that is first and foremost before. And then we'll divide up our responsibilities and also be working on attacking these
Yeah.
ordinances.
And we can still
Those.
divide that up now.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I'm not saying we need to stop.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't think that, yeah, I didn't think, okay.
I have a quick
Yes,
question.
yes.
So back to Fred's comment before that, we need to schedule this stuff out or at least identify these tasks and. What are everyone's thoughts on putting together some kind of a process flow that shows where we're at and the tasks that we're looking at and as people get assigned, otherwise, we're jumping around and I don't know, Brian, what are your thoughts on between now and those days?
It is 4, and we need, I think that we need to go through the zones and start sorting that out first, and then start talking about some timelines, and Brian is going to have some ideas for us too.
Yeah, I disagree. I think I'm with Jim. I think we need an overall general master plan that has this scheduled out. You know, if we just start waddling through it, it's fairly random whether we'll meet our, you know, our time constraints or not. So, and it's not hard. It wouldn't be hard for you to put this to a schedule, Lisa, with what you're thinking about.
Okay, I think we're talking about, that's a part of the plan for today, is to get going with that. Angela had a comment and then Brian had a comment.
I just wanted to, yes, I think that's what we have today, and when I can hop on the computer, I'll show you kind of a start of that. But basically we have currently in the valley, on the ground, on the prior maps, I'll call it, because it's not a current map, on the prior maps on Gizmo, we have 13 active zones. If we wanted to just target what's on the ground now, for starters, as we're talking about not perfect, it's gonna get us open. We have 13 zones plus the general plan to divvy up among the 7 of us, right, in small groups. And then the workflow, just to reiterate, I think it's gonna be repeating what everybody has said, but just to lay it out there as we move forward. The workflow, as I see it, is these small groups of 2 or 3, which might be different depending on the zones. We get together, we work up a cohesive draft based on all this work that took place in the transition and all of the comments and feedback, as well as some of our own. We might have new ideas, we don't just have to stick with what everybody commented, and we're gonna bring in our own expertise. So we're going to come back, we go to that step, then we come back to the full commission, we present our findings and say, here's what we think this zone should be, here are the changes we think that should be made. We discuss it amongst ourselves, come to some sort of vote if we need to. Then we move it on to Brian, and he fine tunes it, checks it for legal, aspects, whatnot, sends it back to us for final look. Then we say, okay, now it goes as a recommendation. We don't vote to adopt anything, the council allows us, so we're just passing it on as a recommendation to the council at that point. So those are all the steps. So I agree, time's of the essence. Today, we're gonna lay out all of those dates. We should divvy up into our groups. We should have a schedule for at each of our upcoming commission meetings, which notes are we gonna talk about? You know, maybe each little subgroup presents one of theirs. And we just start taking them away that way. So we get, 3 out next week and then 3 out the next week, and then kind of go through it like that until we're done. How does that, everybody on the same page?
I think that's great.
Yeah. Brian?
Yes, to Fred's question, I was asked over the weekend for the city council to put together just such a timeline. And I presented it to them yesterday at their work session. I apologize, I did not share it with this group prior to today's meeting, but I have it on my laptop right now. I'd be happy to put it in the Zoom meeting for you to look at. This is a week by week breakdown of the next 12 weeks to get us from right now where we are determining, what are the priorities that the group needs to discuss? Do we have some adoption ready? This is the conversation that needs to be had right
Yes,
now. Are there adoption ready or documents that are close to being adoption ready that we can move ahead in the very short term? And then are there others that require further consultation or review? And then, you can break them out into work groups. This schedule does not have, it's not broken out topically, I'm not saying we need to have the zoning ordinance done by this week and we need to have the subdivision ordinance done by the next week. Things like that, that is still kind of up in the air as to where most of those individual elements are in terms of readiness. So we need to determine that first, and then we can move forward with, we can refine this schedule as we move along. But the idea is that, week to week, there will be a target in mind to have the general plan ready to recommend, a future land use map ready to recommend, different ordinances ready to recommend. And these can be done incrementally. They can be recommended to the city council incrementally, and they can be adopted incrementally. We do want to make sure that, the general plan is first. And then, other things, maybe some zoning ordinances that are easy. We put those in place first. The city council will then look at whether they can incrementally kind of peel back the moratorium bit by bit as we put the legal structure in place to deal with new types of developments. That way, we'll have property owners that can start moving forward with projects prior to June. So I'd be happy to share this, but yeah, I think this is easily achievable, and we've already got a framework in place.
Okay, if you would share that with Angela so we can get it up in a bid, are there any more comments with regard to where we're going with this? Or are we ready? Are we ready to look at zones and let Angela pull up the spreadsheet that she tried to get ready for us? To talk for talking points and decision making, and also adding potential dates. We ready to have her do that? We're gonna stay with that? Okay,
So let me show Kathy where I can go. So it's this weekend, so it should be quite a bit. That's like, oh my God.
while they're trying to pull that up, I wanna make sure that everybody, I see I have haven't noticed that I had an email from Fred asking if there was a Zoom link. And which prompts me to check with everybody. I was unaware, and I think Terry was too, that we need to subscribe to the Utah Public Notice Meeting, whatever, anyway. For planning commissions. I and probably all of you subscribe, so you're getting all of the public notices for the city council meeting. It's a different subscription for the planning commission. And I was frantic saying, where's our agenda? Where's our agenda? We can't drop the ball. Well, it was up. I just didn't know that I had to subscribe in order to get it. And it was fine. So make sure that everybody, make sure you subscribe, then you'll get the notices for the agenda. and it will have the Zoom links on it. There will always be a Zoom link. And they will be posted and you'll get those notices in your emails and it's posted on the door. I think the door of the office, we've already been through those things, but for Fred who's out of town, you know, he needs those. So Fred, make sure you subscribe so you get those notices. And then also, if you will all be kind enough, if there's you know, as we're talking, an agenda item. For example, as we go forward, if we say, okay, hey, be prepared to talk about one of the zones. If you've got 4 done, let me know you've got 4 done so we can adjust the agenda and talk about more. I don't want to hold us back. So, but I don't want to, you know, say 4 and have you feel overwhelmed if you can only get 2 done because they were big. So help me develop the agenda by sending me information so I can make sure that it's on the agenda.
So is the agenda in the meeting notice, or is that something that could be sent out to us prior to?
The agenda's on the meeting notice, but if you have items for the agenda, if you let me know, then I will put it on the agenda when I am preparing that so it can go out. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And
Lisa, it might be helpful if, I don't, unless everybody knows how to find those notices on the utah.gov page, it might be helpful to show everybody real quick. It's not hard once you know where to go. But if you don't know where to go, you're never going to get it.
Can you just tell them, Kathy? Is that-
It's showing.
Okay, well, can we pause because Angela is ready, she's got her stuff pulled up. So let's circle back to that, please, so that we aren't digressing and we'll get there before the end of the day.
Okay, so this is just, technical logistics. So who has been able to access this link, this Word folder that Kathy set up? I'm assuming it was January 27th, that's the date of these files.
I think it came out to us the 29th. It was the day after our meeting was 28th is when it was delivered to us.
I guess raise your hand if you haven't seen this or don't have access. Okay, so let's circle back with you two after the meeting and we'll make sure that we get connected or resend you that link.
Yeah.
So when you get that link, even if you don't have a Microsoft account, it's fine. You just type in your email, your planning commission email, and you can start an account, I guess, or get access.
I have my.
And so once you get there, these are currently all of the folders files in that, and these are our working files.
Fred, do you have that? Have you accessed these?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I have that access.
Oh, good, you would, yeah.
So I'm just gonna jump around and show you, because things are kind of varied, it's not intuitive right now. Just kind of copied and linked what was there from the transition process. So I would say for starters, go to this codes, policies and procedures. And some of these are just examples of other codes. You can look at those or not. They're not critical to necessarily our immediate task, but just kind of FYI, educational. The ones that are important are, I would start with the WC codes. And these are the codes that have been edited by the volunteers over the course of several months. All of the comments are dumped in here in different forms. So you might have to look in 2 places depending on the zone. For instance, this land use codes here, if you go to the zones, as I said, it's a lot of digging. Some of these red line recommendations, these were early, just PDFs. I'll just kind of click one to show you. So if you're looking at the ag zone, some of the comments came in, just sort of marked up PDFs. As an example, and other cases, if we go backwards, sorry, use maps, so this is others might have these sidebar comments.
Tell me again, which link did you start down? I'm trying to put up with you.
Okay, so it was that WC codes, Weaver County codes. So the
Yeah,
effort was
Weaver County
really,
codes, and then the top file is a file that says WC land use codes, or is
yeah,
it?
go to, maybe for zoning. What's it, I do backwards?
Were you in the first folder, Weaver County land use codes, and then it says, okay, in there.
Yeah. And so, and then, once things got rolling, this is more of the format that you'll see in the majority of the comments that through the transition process where people added comments. So if you click this comment on the side, if your comments aren't showing up, click that and you'll see who said what. And it will refer to, flagging things and nothing was changed, it was only comments. So the pure document is still here. And these are all of the Weaver County codes that were edited. So nothing was created new, it was just commenting on what was there. Some of them are just grammar, technical, things that didn't make sense. Some of them are more kind of philosophical, so it's a whole range of feedback. So I would go to both versions of the marked up sets as you're looking at a particular zone and compare and pull notes from those. And how we want to make comments to transmit to Brian, I guess is something we can talk about. I don't wanna, have like 4 layers of all these comments, but we probably do need a clean document that's just coming from the commission and the feedback that we do want to include, so we can talk about that later. But I'm just trying to show you where things are, what it looks like, how to access it. And then we go back. You must consider. Okay, so that's under this WC land use codes. That's why it's WC, we just basically reviewed it, right? And if we go back to. And I'm gonna go back.
Like that over right there on the line. This is like a little quick for you, that's that easier for you.
Yeah, since I'm not a user. So that's where those are, and then the OVC code is my understanding. This is what Peggy and Tia and Chad took a stab at. So they reviewed the transition volunteer comments, my understanding.
Yes.
And you began to try to draft some of these. So you can talk through maybe the process, and if you feel like any of these are just cleaned up, good for our final review, or how do you recommend we use your documents?
We took all of the comments, all of the public comments that were taken over the year, and we started now changing the document. So we put in and discuss each one of these, but it's a lengthy process to go through each one of those. So we suggest you go through them again, but these, once you see it, just go. I think you'll see, don't worry about the numbers on these. I think Brian's team will help us with all of that. Don't worry about the numbers, but you'll notice the charts have been changed. We took out a lot of conditional uses. We took out things, so this needs to be reviewed and before it goes out to the public. So some conditional uses are still there, some are not.
Can you give us an example?
That was taken out, no, it was months ago, I'm sorry, I can't very. But I think I might have said, why do we have a 500 count frog farm? For example. Okay, so it may happen, I don't know, you guys may have a different, view on that than I do, so.
We talked about circuses as well.
We talked about circuses, temporary circuses was conditioned, so people may, we gotta have a large net here and a lot of different perspectives in it. So hydroelectric dam, there's another one, but there you'll find a lot of different things in there. And I really hope conditional uses are something we could talk to Craig all about. I think that's one of the questions that are coming up. So just know, these we took time to change. The other ones with the comments on the side, the original documents with public input.
Thank you. So we need to look at this as one of the, and you should this, because that also respect the time that they spent and synthesizing that. So that's where that is, and so this will be our working folder. So I think in our small groups, we want to be organized in a similar way here and create maybe our own, folder that's
Information.
by zone, and then we just work and all of our edits are kept there versus having to go and like your past layers of things, so I think we should talk about what's gonna work best, or if you have recommendations, or if you do, Brian, because you're ultimately gonna have to sift through all of this, so how can we make your job easier in transmitting our next final round of feedback process?
Well, Brian, I was thinking about that, one of the things that helped us was numbering this, so, to number the AV, or then when we get to the ordinances, the numbers 104-08. So just keeping it consistent, and then we tried to put our initials first draft, so you kind of knew what it was, so you see PDB, first draft, 104. Whatever, so that's how we numbered them, I don't know if that's helpful or not, but.
Yeah, that's similar to the internal system that we use in my office. That could work. Also, just make, since we're using Word documents, making sure we're tracking changes
Instead of taking them out.
instead of taking them,
Yes.
instead of history of when modifications are made.
Yeah, is everybody
I
that
don't know how to do that, I mean, I do.
We
but-
can show you how.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just think everybody needs to know how to
In
use
fact,
the
we can go in and turn track changes on and then lock it, so. you can-
That's a great idea. And then the other quick.
I see that question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think, for just the efficiency and to echo what you just said, Angela, that Ryan needs to come up with a format under which we split all this up, not how we divvy it out, but just how we split up the code and how it's gonna be able to be transmitted to him in an effective way instead of 20 different formats
Yes.
and all kinds of stuff. And also not just because of the formatting, but so we actually know that we got it all, that we didn't just skip over a huge section of code. And somebody, probably Brian, I would think, needs to determine how we do that.
Yeah.
So that it's consistent.
That'd be great. And then the other thing I want to quickly touch on is this spreadsheet, which is in that same master folder.
Mhm.
It's a, just an Excel type thing.
It says, it's called OVPC Zone Review Table.
Yeah, so there's two tabs. One tab is the full list of zones from Weaver County. All these grayed areas are either we don't have it we didn't have it in the valley upon incorporation, or maybe it's something that we don't really need to adopt now. We can revisit later after the next general plan. And so then I have a short list of zones to review. And so you see agriculture, we only have one ag zone. That doesn't mean in this process we can't create another. It's just, this is the only active ag zone on the ground currently. So this might help us streamline if we really are just trying to get things opened up, focus on property owners, what their zones are, how we can help them, understand the adjustment. So at a bare minimum, we want to hit these zones. And like I said, we can take them out, we can change them, we can add, but I thought this would help simplify just to weed out and the unnecessary pieces of the Weaver County code that we don't need to touch. There are some overlay zones, and then there's the general plan. And then there's the map. So the map, I don't know that we can do the map until we have zones, but it also needs to be top of mind during all of these conversations. So as you're reviewing your zones, you're thinking about, well, where should this go? So that can change as well through this process.
If I may, when I looked at, I thought this was really helpful to me, Angela, so thank you very much. I looked at the short list and then I looked at the full list and I thought, okay, our job is to create this, right? Not to adopt what's, and we're giving it some thought, we're here because we care. And so I'm gonna use ag as my example because it's at the top of the list. The short list says ag AB3, but we have a A1, A2, and A3, and it says we currently does not exist in the valley and consider removing it from round one zone. I think if you are good one that you want to sign up as ag is you're passionate about ag and you want to look, then find out what those are, because I think that's where our work comes into play is, well, I think we need that, and I don't think we should wait till the next round if and jump on it. That's as far as these things go. I don't think we should hesitate to include this in our research and shortcut it. We are gonna have to be as slim as possible, to get it done, but I think it was useful because I liked having both to go, oh, well, I would like to know what A1, A2, and A3 are.
I sort of disagree. I think we need to focus on the short list, because those are the things that affect the people in the valley the most right now.
For more.
And I'm not for the moratorium, right? So I'm not saying that we shouldn't eventually look to see if we wanna add one or whatever the heck that is. But I think for the purposes of getting out of the moratorium and keeping as many people in the valley as happy as possible, which you're not gonna make everybody happy, we need to focus on the short list and get those things done before we start getting into the weeds of, do we want to add one zone if there currently isn't one here?
Well, I think you might at least wanna read through the other acts, yeah, is there something there you wanna pull into this, or, it's still a resource there if you need it. And that's gonna be case by case, whoever the reviewing group.
Right, the reviewing group, and then the reviewing group should bring it back to the full group and say, here's what we think. Because somebody else might say, I think we need to stick with the short list, or you wanna have these other two, can you get it done? So we can do that. I think that, because ultimately, we have to have it done by the deadline.
Or you might even say, we looked at Ag1, it really is, it was a good recommendation to get rid of it.
Right, you might, and then somebody will say, well, what is that one?
Right.
Oh, I agree, it is good to get rid of it, or, well, have you ever thought of this? So, I mean, this is our opportunity to start wrapping our head around what this community is dreaming about. When we said we wanted to do this on our own, take this on, so I don't wanna miss things out of the gate that we don't have to. Yeah, that's all, that's just my thought. Who else? And then, and I'd like everybody to have an opportunity to give their comments and input on this. And then I'd like to move on to try to start dividing some of this up. We have to be finished by 5 because city council's coming in, so. Hey, thoughts on this piece?
With the piece on the zones or the piece on?
The one,
the
we
lines?
talked about the short list, the full list, anybody have thoughts any thoughts on this before we move into, here are the zones, who wants to be on the team for those zones?
I'm ready to move forward personally.
Should we see Brian's schedule when you know?
Oh, yes, let's do that, please, Brian.
Okay, so I did email it out to the planning commission at ogdenvalleyut.org. I emailed it twice because I didn't want this to be attached the first time, sorry. The second one, I can just put it here I can share it here in the Zoom meeting.
That'd be great.
That'd be wonderful.
Brian's did it again.
Okay.
So are we all on the email with Brian?
Yes.
You should, yes.
We should be, because Kathy got everybody's email address and created the list.
I unlocked you and you can't get out of the list, I removed you now.
Maybe check your spam folder for it's sent to a group like that, your email may have sorted it.
It's blood in, blood out, guys.
Okay, so for example, here, for this week, we've discussed hearing dates and legal noticing deadlines. Really, when push comes to shove, we've got the first 2 weeks of June to get everything wrapped up. I mean, those are our drop dead dates to get everything adopted before the moratorium runs out on the 2nd of July or 3rd of July. I think we have it within us to get done earlier than that, but I also think, we need to give ourselves some wiggle room in case something unanticipated comes up and there's more controversy or conflict over a particular issue than anticipated. But anyway, for the first week, we look at those deadlines, we talk about what's adoption ready or we're close to being adoption ready, what's going to require additional consultation. So, we need to figure out and start making assignments, how that gets reviewed, and ideally we come back to the meeting next week with some solid recommendations to the body to proceed. Assigning review responsibilities, begin that internal review, And then we need to talk about, as Angela mentioned, the zones that it's the land uses that had historically been in place in the valley. Do we want to continue those the way they're mapped out right now? Or are there adjustments that we want to make? That's something, the land use map, in order of operation, we need to have a general plan in place first and then a land use map in place in second. And then we can start knocking out, the details that kind of fill in the uses within that land use map. So the goal is for next week, we finish that internal review from February 9th through the 15th. We finish the internal review of what we think are the easy boxes to check. And then we begin to make revisions to the general plan. I've been kind of scrolling through that old general plan. There's a lot of demographic stuff that needs to be updated. It was all originally written back in 2016, 2017. So there's a lot of data that needs to be updated. That's just filling the blank kind of stuff. It may change. The new data may change your perspective on certain policies that are in the plan. It may not. But that's something that we will have ready to go for your consideration by next week. So, starting February 9th, you can start looking through that and then deciding, do things need to change based on this new information?
Sir, you're going to be doing that process.
My staff will be making those demographic and statistical updates within the document. We're not going to mess around with policy or anything.
But map, we'll fix the map.
We'll create, we'll recreate the old map. And then, for your discussion, if we want to make any changes, we can make new maps that reflect those changes.
Will you also eliminate just all this extra stuff about like the Ogden Canyon and so you'll take care of all that.
Yeah, in fact, the prior working group has already struck a lot of that. Okay. So
And like median income that's in some of the charge.
that's all 10 years old. It's gonna have to be, it's all gonna have to be, the whole housing section. In fact, the state of Utah has completely rewritten the requirements for moderate income housing plans. So that's, and rumor is they're going to completely rewrite them again this second. So by March, we'll see. That's gonna be kind of a squishy spot that we leave until March to make some final.
And when you make those updates when you make the updates to the general plan, will you do it in the document that says draft general plan so we know where to look?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we'll keep all of those changes in the same place. Starting next week, we'll want to start have a conversation with the city attorney about how any of these proposed ordinance changes may influence. Or, basically just make sure that they pass legal muster. And we'll get that, like Tyson asked, we'll get that versioning and document structure in place.
Thank you.
That tracking system. Week 3, starting February 16th, we will continue to make any final revisions to those easy documents, but if we've gotten to a point where as a body you are comfortable with them, we can schedule a public hearing for one of your meetings and then make a formal recommendation. We can put the information, we'll put information out on the website for the public to review, give it 7 days notice, have a public hearing, the public can come in, provide you with any additional comments that you might have. Hopefully, within that meeting, you will still have enough time to consider whether adopting those changes or passing on and then you can make a recommendation at that meeting to the city council. The city council can then schedule a public hearing and hear it the next week if they choose, or they can take a look at it and, if they decide it needs more deliberation, they can take an extra week, but they can get their public hearing, and then we can start that kind of rolling incremental adoption.
Checking off some boxes.
Yep, start checking some things off the list. By week 4, We're looking at, and we may already, by week 4, we may already have checked a couple of these off the list. We may have already, we may be comfortable with the general plan by now and we can move on. But, we can make sure that we're comfortable, we're getting to a comfortable spot with each of these documents. If we're not, we can just keep working on. And by week 5, hopefully we've got final drafts of everything that we can work with as a group. Put information out to the public and start scheduling these public hearings so that by week 6, we're publishing notice, we're distributing packets to the public for their consideration. This is if we haven't already done so. But by week 6, we're publishing that information. Week 7, the planning commission is holding a hearing. If the city council wants to take time to look at things during week 8, they can make their considerations, and then the city council can publish a hearing at the end of March. Put their versions of any revisions out to the public for review. They have comments on week 10, or they have the public hearing on week 10, take their comments. If necessary, they continue anything that might be too controversial and do it again week 11, right? So that, if we have documents that are ready to adopt by week 11, that can go through the hearing process. The city council can make any final changes and then adopt it. And then, then it goes to signature and publication. Anything that got continued, goes into week 11 or week 12. And we just keep punching out like that and hopefully have everything reviewed, commented on, and revised and ready to be adopted ideally by week 12. But week 12 is still, the end of April. If we still don't have everything cleaned up, we still got the month of May to
So-
keep chipping away at those contributions.
So now we got 2 schedules, right? We've got the short schedule and the drop dead schedule.
Yep.
And how are those going to, it's like, is this our do your level best? Because if this is the absolute schedule, we need to be able to say, hey, if we run into a problem and we think, hey, if we have to strictly adhere to this schedule, we may not do the good job we think we're going to do, which is why we have a moratorium. So I'm having a little, a little incongruency with having drop dead dates saying essentially May 26th for a final June 16th date, and this that says April 26th, it's going to instead of June 16th. That's a different value.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, did the council vote that we're doing that, or are we still this? Mhm. This is good,
I
go
think-
for it.
I think we all need to remember that we're not shooting for perfection, right? Everything, just like the city council, when they were approving some of their ordinances, I know for the moratorium, they've gone back and amended it like 3 times. We're not shooting for perfect. We're shooting for perfect enough to get it rolling and out. And those are things things come up to the city, either the city council or the planning commission. Once we start rolling, those are things that can be amended as we go. And correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, if that's not true, but it was my understanding that we're not gonna sit here and stay in this mode of review and everything to get to perfect, because that, I don't even think that exists, to be honest.
No. You know, even communities that have been around for 100 years, they're not perfect. They're always taking something.
Anybody else here have some thoughts on two dramatically different dates?
I think we need to shoot for that one.
Well, I think we can shoot for it.
My response to that is, I agree with you, I totally understand. I love to be able to under promise and over deliver, and this is a tough act to do that with.
Yeah,
Right, this is a very strict timeline. This is a very ambitious goal of being able to say, hey, we're gonna get out of this moratorium 2 months early. You know, and I would almost say this is our private internal goal. But the public goal is to have it done by June 13th. I can't do that because the public's not here. Yeah. But you know.
Mom's the bird.
and now you know, now we gotta kill you.
But this gives us a framework, and this gives us a sense of urgency
Sure.
that if I scheduled it out and said, as long as we're done by May 26th.
Then we end up in
I
August.
don't want us dragging our feet through the month of April and through the month of May because, we've always got one more week.
For sure.
You know, I would much rather have us get done early. Following this strict timeline.
Mhm.
Or in the worst case scenario, I would have us strive for this timeline, but as road bumps come up, we still have a buffer. Between unanticipated
Pushback.
unanticipated pushback from the public is a fickle and wily creature. I love you guys, but they can be unpredictable. What we as a group and what the working groups the working groups on this issue may have been thinking, oh, this is the perfect solution. They may have been thinking that for 9 months. We put it out to the general public and they're gonna say, what on earth were you thinking? You are absolutely nuts. That is not the way we're going to support you doing this. And so you'll have a choice to make. Well, do we want to consider to follow what the working group did, or do we need to, and do we need to take additional time to reconsider? So I don't want to put us in a situation where we're going to be really under pressure through the last month of this process. I would much rather work with this goal in mind, with the expectation that we can kick this a week or two down the road anywhere in this process based on any sort of obstacles that may pop up.
Anybody else have thoughts on this?
I think it's.
Yeah, this is Fred. I really like your schedule and your thoughts, Brian. Thank you.
We didn't receive it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Okay, have you seen the new one yet, Fred? In the
Yeah,
email?
it came through. Yes, it came through. Thank you.
Are you guys on Wi-Fi?
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, we'll get that.
Yeah, I just sent it to that planning commission, but I can send it to your initial addresses too, so.
I don't have it, two meetings. Yes, you
That's well.
So yeah, and so based on feedback from the next 15 minutes or the next few days, if you want to, kick assignments back and forth, I can start filling in the blanks on this as to what our specific goals week for week are going to be. But I would strongly suggest we tackle that general plan in the next 2 weeks. Try and get that to a point where you're comfortable with recommending that to the city council. And then additionally, we can follow through with the land use map and individual zonings. The subdivision ordinance, honestly, I think that can wait till the very last. Because first of all, a lot of it is kind of prescribed by state law. You have to do certain things in the subdivision ordinance that, or else. And the other thing is that honestly, we can start releasing building permit applications for certain zones immediately, but we don't have to start new subdivisions until we are in a really good position. Those are the big nasty ones. Those are the ones that are going to have the most dramatic impact on changing the character of the community. Onesie and twosie building permits aren't, someone putting a house up all we're arguing about is how tall it can it be, how far from the property line does it need to be. Those are really the only things we're arguing about in zoning. But the subdivisions, those are the ones that we want to make sure that we get right and should be taking extra time.
Okay, that's helpful. Does anybody have any comments, or are we able to move to starting to divide up some of this, and put down in writing what these responsibilities are gonna be? We have 15 minutes.
I'm good.
We good?
Yeah.
General plan is first on the agenda. I would propose that everybody needs to be looking at the general plan and giving, their thoughts and comments, looking at both the 2016 version and the draft version, so you know what changes have been made and make sure you're comfortable with the changes in the draft, because as Tyson said, we are recommending this to them. This is, we are charged with setting that up, not adopting what somebody else has done. And it could be great work. We just need to know what it is and agree with it.
Yeah, one quick comment on an efficiency note. Once Brian's team creates a draft with the revised thing, we need to have one that we're all commenting on the same document, so we
And I
don't
think
have.
this, yeah,
Yeah, we'll make sure that we.
you make sure you get that draft.
And I mean, for example, I've been looking at a draft that was last edited in October.
Okay.
That's the one that Janet put up in that share folder.
And
We will make sure that there is a new one
Oh.
with the planning commission's name on it. So we can you can put all your comments and fingerprints all over that one.
What timeline are you thinking?
but you can still read and
Yeah.
get up to speed on it.
I would say we've got 2 weeks to get it ready to recommend for a public hearing.
No, when would you,
When we have your part done.
Oh, when's my part done? I mean. Yeah, I think we can have it done by the end of this week. And ready for you to.
And in the
look at
file so we can access it.
Yeah, in
Okay.
the file.
So we're gonna read. That's all of our assignment, is to read and make thoughts, take notes or whatever, if you feel like doing that, or if you wanna wait to take your notes. Once we have that draft that we can comment on, but working on understanding that general plan is number one for everybody. And then,
May I ask, are you doing red lines? Are y'all doing the same version?
on that, yeah, we're just getting familiarized ourselves.
right now, we're figuring out, once he gives us a draft that we can comment on, we'll make the comments. And do we wanna start redlining then? I think we need to talk about it before we actually redline. We need to
Well, we
agree
should
what's
be able to
getting
see-
redlined.
Everybody should be able to see everybody else.
Is that general plan in the folder? Is that not the general plan that we should be looking at?
Yes, it is the one, Fred, that you should be looking at. There are two. There's the general plan that is adopted by Weaver County in 2016. There's another document that's a draft that it has been worked on by the council or, before. And that one has some things done, like taking out the canyon and the other areas that aren't within our boundaries. So,
And that's the one that's labeled Ogden Valley General Plan Draft 10/19/25.
Yes.
Yes,
okay,
Okay,
and then Brian is
So
going
we-
to create a third one. That's going to put some other stuff in and he'll have that up by the end of the week. That's the one that we will use to make comments on and eventually will become, am I accurate? Our draft that we're going to finalize and propose. But for purposes of starting reading now, it's the two that are what we currently have, so you can get started with something.
If you do want.
and what's the difference between the one Brian's doing and this 10/19/25 plan?
Brian, go.
I'm going to make some statistical updates, particularly on demographics, population growth, economic,
Yeah, okay, cool.
things like that, because they're all from back in 2016.
Yeah. Okay,
All right, perfect.
bye. Okay, that's the general plan. Now, let's move to the short list of zones to review. And at the top of the list is Ag and AV3. who wants to be on that list to review those. And we'll narrow, if everybody says yes, we'll narrow it afterwards. So tell me who wants to be on there.
I would, Tyson would.
Okay.
Lisa, can you put that back on the screen?
I can't, but Janet probably, Kathy can.
Brad, that Angela did, it's in the
Spreadsheet.
Oh, thank you.
And if I go ahead and, do you wanna type those in, Kathy, or do you want me to?
I can type that.
Okay, Angela will type it in, Tyson on 83.
Anyone else?
Anybody else?
I'll do anything.
Okay. Aaron? I'll do 83 as well.
Who's that, Aaron?
Aaron and Lisa. That's 3. If there are others, we can put them in a different color, make sure that you're gonna get, you know, we're gonna make sure we check in with you. Anybody else want their name on 83?
No.
Okay, resident,
Just in general, I don't have any strong feeling for any of them, so you can just assign me as,
okay, all right.
as needed, okay?
Okay, well, chime in for something, even if it's from that list that I sent you earlier. Residential estates, RE 15 and 20. I want to just leave those together because they're in the residential zone. RE 15, who feels,
I'll do it.
who's that?
Terry.
Terry wants to be on residential estate zones. Who else? We need 1 or 2 more.
I'll do it.
Okay, Aaron and Fred, you wanna go on that one since you said you didn't care? That'll be 3 there.
Sure.
Sure, thank you. Forest residential,
I'd like to do that.
Tyson would like to be on that.
I'll do it.
Jim would like to be on that. Do I hear a third? I'll do it. Okay. Forest zone, F5.
Also like to do that.
Tyson would like to be on that one.
Same, I'll do that.
Jim, I'd like to be on that one too. Shoreline,
I'd like to do that.
Tyson wants to be on that.
Overachiever.
Overachiever.
Make this all
What is
work.
that?
Some of them are shorter.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know, let me stick with this first so we can, because we only have a few more minutes to get this done. 2 more for shoreline, or at least 1 more for shoreline.
I'll do Fred will do
Okay,
shoreline.
thank you. Commercial Valley Resort Recreation.
That's on the short list.
Yep,
Wow.
Searching on that.
right, that Angela and I'll go on that one also.
I'll do that one too.
Okay, Terry too, Terry and Lisa and Angela. Forest Valley Zone,
I'll do that.
okay. Aaron,
I'll also do that.
Tyson,
I'll do that too.
And Fred said.
and Fred, okay. Commercial zones. And Angela,
Terry.
Barry. All right, who has a lot, who has few?
I think I have a lot.
I'm sorry, yeah, it's,
No.
we'll leave 2, we'll leave 2, and if we need more, if they need more help, get something done and jump in. Open space.
I'll do
I'll
that.
jump in on
Was that Lisa?
Yeah.
Fred?
I'll do that too, I would start.
Yeah,
with-
Fred.
that. Okay, Fred, Jim, and Lisa.
So do y'all wanna tie in a sensitive overlay zone tied to that or is it?
I don't know. Oh. I'll be in on the sensitive lands overlay. I'll be on that one.
I'll join you.
Okay, Tyson will join me on that. Okay, large solar energy system overlay.
I've never-
You've never even heard of that.
Is it 6
Fred will be
months?
on that, but just a question, Brian, why is that specifically identified?
Yeah.
You know?
They weren't that, let's not assign that.
It was maybe we
Yeah.
Okay, and, should we just start with those, or should we go look at some of the zones on the full list and see what we skipped?
Let's start.
This is a lot for a week.
It is a lot, but they've all gonna get done, so, okay, let's, if anybody, if the overachievers, whether you took a lot or a few, if you get done and you're bored, let us know. That's to you.
From the technical aspect, is there a way to create a file with existing code somewhere that our groups can comment? Like, so that it's like categorized by each one? But I just feel like somebody should
So
create the overarching thing,
there's-
and then.
Are you saying like?
you mean like zoning on the Weaver County website?
If you
There's
go
a-
here, that's gonna pull up the,
I know where to find them, but the question is, we'll have a group of 3 working on something and commenting on it. And in theory, we should all have a similar format and a similar.
Right.
So if someone sets up the building blocks perfect, well, at the beginning, and we're all working on building blocks, it's easier to put back together. But if we're all inventing our own Legos,
Right.
it's gonna be a lot of.
So I think that's what we said maybe Brian could do for us is give us a overarching format that we're all gonna adhere to.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
So if he does that, then we can know.
and how soon can you do that?
That's good.
When can we have that? We
Oh,
can feel the pressure to work on, you know.
yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, trust me, I've been on the phone.
I know.
Down on me, so,
No pressure there.
No, that's
Sharon.
engineering.
so. Yeah, we'll work to make sure that, I've got my staff working on it right now, we'll work to make sure it's the end one.
Great. Okay, then one last thing, so we can adjourn, planning team and protocol for communication. We touched a little bit about on this before. Remember, Chad is the lead for planning, so he's gotta be in the loop on everything that happens. And I need to be in the loop on what's going on so that I can also, especially so I can make sure what's on the agenda that we need to have on that agenda.
And they asked that just put me on there too, and pay you 2 commissioners.
Yes, please.
Without a quorum, so please
Right.
write me,
Okay.
so I can help.
And then, please do not. Brian was kind enough to pass out his business cards. Please do not use those. Please make sure you don't call Brian, and don't everybody be calling Brian when you have a question. Because as we talked about earlier, we need to be really mindful of the budget. Please bring it to the meeting where we have it, where he's here, or bring it to Chad or me so that when we've compiled a number of things that we need to talk about, we'll do it. If it's an urgent thing, don't worry, we'll get it, we'll get the information. But if we're all going off, it helps, we have a tendency, I mean, it's easy to become disjointed. If somebody calls and then goes off doing their thing and then it gets to Chad and Chad says, wait, I didn't know about that, and that wasn't really what I wanted, where I wanted to go, or, so we need to just follow that protocol, please. And any quick questions, because you don't have much time, 2 minutes.
Brian.
Brian?
I will say, I've already scheduled some time with Jim and Fred, to have a conversation. I can put together some other scheduled times. I gotta talk with Peggy about, my task list for the next couple of months, because I do want to make sure that we're, staying
Okay,
in this.
yeah, and the only thing I would say is give Chad the opportunity to be included in that meeting.
These meetings, these regularly scheduled work sessions, we're gonna be really busy. If you need to talk outside of those meetings, I can make time available, but yeah, let's make sure.
Yeah.
If I can put 2 or 3 of y'all on phone
Yeah.
together, and we can knock out a couple of things.
Yeah, if I can be in the loop, that's great, 3 of us doesn't make a quorum in the planning commission. And make sure that Chad and or Peggy know, so that if they wanna jump in, they can as well, that's not a quorum either for the commission, for the council, that was kind of my understanding based on what we talked about before.
Fred had a question in closing, I heard.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, hey, Brian, I'd say how this has evolved since you and I talked, and Jim, I would say we don't need to have that periodic meeting at this time. We'll see how things go.
Okay,
Okay, Well, I can still be available. I'm sure I can work with Peggy and Chad to
Perfect.
make some time. 'Cause,
Yeah.
The city council all agrees this is a high priority.
Paramount, sure. That's great. All right, we'll hear a motion to adjourn. So the next group, the
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
thanks, guys.
Thank you, Lisa.